What up, what up, what up? Welcome into another edition of Green with Envy. As always, this is your boy Will Ware checking in. How you doing? How you living? Joining me today to talk about the contract that finally came. The long night is over. It's my best friend, co-host, coach of the podcast, the one and only Greg Menakis. How you doing, buddy?
Dude, not gonna lie, like after I saw the breakdown of Jaylen Brown and how much he's making, I felt really bad about myself. I was just like, I am not making anywhere near that money. And obviously I'm not a superstar athlete, but still I want to make more money. If
It's
Jaylen
insane.
Brown is making 70 million by the end of his contract, I need to add a couple zeros to my paychecks, I'll tell you that.
Jaylen Brown, 5 years, $304 million supermax, guaranteed, fully
Sheesh.
guaranteed, no player options. There is a trade kicker, 5-year contract. And just to lay it out, Greg, here's the breakdown year by year of what this man is about to make to play the game of basketball. 52 million, 56 million, 60 million, 64 million, and then 69 million in the year 2028, 2029. Nearly $70 million for 1 year of basketball. Man, that is some, shout out to JB. That is some legit generational wealth. That is jaw dropping to look at, even though we've been talking about it. We've been wondering when it's going to happen, but just seeing the numbers actually play out, I cannot imagine the feeling signing a contract that guarantees you this type of money.
It's gotta feel surreal, man. Like when I get a commission check, because we're in sales, when I get a commission check that's, I don't know, twice my base salary or whatever
Mm-hmm.
it would be, I'm always like, yeah, boy, I'm making that money. Let's go. Let me go get a new pair of Jason Tatum shoes. When are the Jaylen Brown shoes gonna drop? Is he gonna start his own shoe line? Like, what's going on with this
Well,
money? What is Jaylen Brown gonna invest in? Because that man is already scheming to triple this money.
Well, here's the thing. This is what I was thinking was, looking at these numbers, this kind of feels like that age-old question, like when the lottery gets super high and everyone's rushing out to go play, and all of a sudden, everybody's buying 5 tickets, and so the odds are even lower than they usually are because it's, $700 million or whatever the jackpot is. And then everyone, of course, starts talking, man, what would you do if you won? What would you do? And I'll ask you, Greg, what would you do if you had Jaylen Brown's contract? And don't give me I'm gonna buy my parents a car or a house. That'd be nice, but I know your parents, they have a car, they have houses. What would you really do with that money?
Oh man, that is a great question. I mean, first thing I do is probably travel the world and hook the homies up and be like, y'all, next year off, like next year's on me. Just like come with me, let's travel the world. I'm gonna give you each, I don't know, $100,000 just to $200,000. Take the year off of work. Come travel, all expenses.
I
I
like that you
got
I
you.
like that you doubled it. You put a number out and then you doubled it.
Yeah, why not, man? It's hypothetical money.
Yeah,
We're just
yeah.
playing with it right now. How about you, man? I travel the world with my homies. You'd be
I mean,
you'd
I
be
mean,
involved, obviously.
yeah. I mean, and same here. I mean, hooking up the homies is definitely the number one thing when this question has come up for me personally that I always like to do. I mean, a part of that is just reinvesting into our network that we have here with Adam, the 3-man weave, and really trying to bring in everybody that we'd love to work with, and like, let's just make this our thing. Like, we got the capital now. Let's go ahead and turn this into something. We come up with something, we brainstorm, come up with something. But the first thing I always say if I were to ever win the lottery in any capacity is kind of what you're saying. I feel like I need to just take a moment and celebrate with those closest to me. And that's, we going on a private jet. We hitting up an island. I might buy an island. I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and we're just going to take this all in because this is a win. It feels like it'd be a win for the team, right? It's a team win. It's not just an individual win. It's a team win if you get some type of glow up like this. And, we saw with Jaylen Brown, and this is one of the reasons that anytime trading him comes up, and whether it's just a fun conversation or if it's a realistic thing that like with Kevin Durant that was out there, that makes it tough, is that this dude you know thinks on such a higher plane than you and I just going to party with our friends and hook the homies up. Like, this guy was in Dorchester, doing that court ceremony the other day. Like, I feel like Jaylen Brown's first instinct is probably something more along the lines of how can I emulate LeBron and Jalen Rose, who created schools and educational systems? Like,
Let's
that's where
take
I think
let's take the double rims off of every outdoor court in America.
that's a good start. That's a good platform to run on. You know, if you're running for any type of office, I fully support that. Although I'm pretty bougie that I don't really play outdoors anymore. So even though it doesn't benefit me, I still support that. I still support that initiative. But you know, for Jaylen Brown, man, this is a hell of a contract for the Celtics. This is a hell of an investment. This is a hell
Mm.
of an investment. We knew it was probably coming. We kept hearing, we talked about this in the last pod, you know, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, you know, had to get this and that. Seems like, you know, it really came down to, is there going to be a player option, trade kicker, you know, what that looks like. Looks like the trade kicker is not for the full 15% that it is in some contracts. I haven't seen what percentage that might be, but that gives Jaylen a little bit of leverage should there be a time where maybe he's moved. And, you know, Greg, let me ask you from a Celtics perspective, now that it's official, now that it's
Mhm.
no longer hypothetical, do you think this was an easy decision to just to go ahead and get this done?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know why you would pinch pennies at this point with Jaylen Brown, especially when you look around the league. And we talked about this, you know, the first day of free agency where all those guys were signing their extensions. Jaylen Brown is just as good, if not better, than every single guy that signed an extension. Just because he's at a different point in his career than some of those guys, and the cap is going up. Now, all of a sudden, you're saying Jaylen Brown has the biggest contract in NBA history. You know, next year, that won't be the case. Someone's going to get more money than he got this summer with
Yeah.
if the cap continues
Yeah,
to
that
increase.
real quick, that
Yeah,
line is gonna get so tired of, oh, this like if Jaylen Brown has one bad game, oh, this is the, you know, most expensive player in NBA history. This guy, it's gonna get so annoying so quickly. But like you said, it's only gonna be a very temporary feeling. Like Mike Conley at one point was the highest paid player in
yeah.
NBA history for like 5 or 6 months, and then it changes. It's a timing thing, but I'm gonna get really annoyed with that retort on social media pretty quickly during the season.
Well, if we end up making a trip back to Boston to watch any games, and we go to the same place where we watched the games, where we went to the Knicks and the Lakers games, and if we sit next to the same two guys that we sat next to, you know, they're gonna be, oh, there's your all star, huh?
Yep.
There's your second team All NBA guy. Well done, highest played player in the NBA. Like, get out of here with your bum ass Jaylen Brown. You're gonna be hearing a lot of that if Jaylen Brown doesn't live up to the contract. Not that he kind of ever can live up to the contract, because the expectations are just going to be
Right.
so high around him. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And no, that's a super important point of all this, right? Like Jaylen Brown's last contract, he outplayed that.
Oh, yeah.
And there's going to be people who are saying, well, he's not now. It's impossible for him to outplay this contract. Like this, he is never going to live up to being a $300 million player. It's just a fact. Like that's just, it's never going to be that, oh yeah, Jaylen Brown was worth 70 million, but this is the market rate. This is the market rate for a championship team. And something I've been saying all along is I'm comfortable paying Jaylen Brown this money because you have Jason Tatum. And Jason Tatum's going to
Mm-hmm.
surpass what this is. So it's going to be, you know, your number one, your number two. They're going to line up on your books financially, even though it's going to be just bonkers looking at one point, you know, 120 million or whatever it's going to end up being for two guys. But it's going to line up that Tatum will be your number one most expensive guy, Jaylen Brown your number two, and there's zero chance that Jaylen Brown outplays or even lives up to this contract. And so I think that's where it does get interesting, just in the sense of, you know, right now, Greg, this contract is for 5 years. He's got one more on his current deal. So 6 more years that right now he is slated to be a Boston Celtic. In 6 years, give me a percentage breakdown that you think he actually lives out this contract as a Boston Celtic versus at some point in the next 6 years he gets moved.
I think it all depends on team success, right? If the Celtics don't win an NBA title within the next 2 years,
Yeah.
so at the end of his first year on the extension and end of 24-25, I would say the Celtics probably trade him 25-26 or 26-27, right? Because if he proves not to be a perennial second team All NBA type guy, you know,
Or at
there's
least
so many.
fringe all NBA in the all NBA discussion year in and year out. That is one thing that you really want to see moving forward.
Absolutely. If he doesn't prove to be that guy, if for whatever reason the decline that we saw in his jump shot towards the end of last season, if that is a trend that continues, if obviously the playmaking and turnover issues, he has pretty much even assist to turnover ratio in his career. If he doesn't figure out a way to either become great at his strengths or improve his weaknesses, then that's going to be really difficult for the Celtics to just continue to build around a team of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown with all of the cap implications, right? If we can't win it. But if Jaylen becomes the best possible version of what he already is with his strengths, right, and never improves on his weaknesses, I still think that that player is worth this contract, right? If
Yeah.
Jaylen Brown becomes, the a mix between DeMar DeRozan and Kobe Bryant, like somewhere in there. He's not DeMar DeRozan because you don't want to pay DeMar DeRozan $70 million in a contract year. You would never do that. But you would definitely pay Kobe Bryant that much money, right? So if he can fill somewhere in between those two and be the defensive pest that he's been in the past, if he can kind of rediscover what made him special on the defensive end early in his career, then I do think that there's a chance Jaylen could. The contract won't be like the Tobias Harris type level where everyone just
Yeah.
talks about how you can't. This is what happens if you give a guy like Tobias Harris this much money. You're never going to be able to build a championship roster. I don't think Jaylen will ever be in that type of
You'll
conversation.
be able to move this contract. And like you said, the important part is right now, and it's still always going to be a very high number, but as the cap is right now projected to kind of jump up 10% for the next couple of seasons, at each season over season, like it's going to be less and less of that percentage. And really it's the tax line that the Celtics care about. When you're in the championship discussion, you care about that tax line. So, you know, their contracts are going to be, and this is why you said those next 2 years are the most important 2 years in Celtics. It's not in Celtics history, but in a long time, these next 2 years are pivotal because when you hit 3 years from now and you're going into that season where Tatum's extension is kicking in, Jaylen Brown's is already kicked in, and you have $30 million tied up with Kristaps Porzingis. Estimate, I saw this in an article earlier today, estimated for that season, roughly about 90% of your cap is tied up with those three guys. So either it's worth it to get real deep into the tax, and Wick and the other ownership group is just saying, whatever, we're writing checks, we're going for a three-peat or we're going for back-to-back or whatever it might be. Or there's got to be some real tough decisions that are going to have to be made. So that makes it super important for these next 2 years. One other thing I wanted to go by you, Greg, here is that I think this contract here is so crazy. So Jaylen is now the first $300 million basketball player, but it puts him in pretty rarefied air across all sports. So, and especially because of the constraints of the NBA. So I'm gonna go through. I'm just gonna read to you right now. These are all of the current $300 million players in the big four sports in the U.S. So right now, and I'm going to read you the length of their contract too, just for some perspective. So we've got Trey Turner, 11 years, 300 million. We've got Jaylen Brown, 5 years, 304 million. Rafael Devers, shout out to our guy here, 10 years, 313. Garrett Cole, 9 years, 324. Corey Seager, 10 years, 325. Giancarlo Stanton, 13 years, 325. Bryce Harper, 13 years, 330. Fernando Tatis Jr., 14 years, 340. Francisco Lindor, 10 years, 341. Manny Machado, 11 years, 350. Aaron Judge, 9 years, 360. Mookie Betts, the one that got away, 12 years, 365. Mike Trout, 12 years, 426. And Pat Mahomes, 10 years, 450. So with that, Jaylen Brown is now going to be on a per year basis, not total, but per year basis, the highest paid athlete in U.S. sports history. So add that to the list of what you could talk about. Now, obviously, that will be surpassed. So on average, that comes out to 60 million, of course, which went over the tiers. But that's going to be the average breakdown. That is a crazy list for Jaylen Brown to be on. Obviously, very baseball heavy on that list, but Pat Mahomes, Jaylen Brown, the two non-baseball players that made that list.
Yeah, but like when the more we talk about it, like the more I just want to know what Jaylen Brown is feeling, other than like pure elation of putting his name, that signature on that contract, or maybe he docu-signed. I don't know how he did it.
Yeah, I don't know how that
But
works.
with JB, like right now, do you think it's pure excitement? Do you think he is feeling any sort of imposter syndrome, like the weight of that contract? Do you think he's feeling that anxiety? I just really want to know, and I'm excited to kind of just hear his thoughts on signing the contract. And I hope at some point we get, a Grant Williams type media circuit out of Jaylen Brown where he hits the podcast scene, and maybe we could even steal a piece of that pie.
Yeah, we gotta slide in those DMs. Although those DMs are probably blocked right now. I'm sure I
Well,
saw.
did you see Rob Williams and
I
Grant
was I was
Williams?
just about to bring that up. I didn't see Grant. I saw Rob though. Did Grant have the same thing trying to FaceTime him?
Yeah, and FaceTime unavailable right now. Jaylen Brown is out celebrating somewhere, hopefully with his family, with his loved ones, because they, as you said, have generational wealth. And Will, you were just talking about those contracts. What about the Kylian Mbappe contract or the bid that Saudi Arabia is throwing out there for Mbappe? Like I think it's like over 300 million just for
It's
one
so
year.
stupid. But I left out the Messi Ronaldo deals and all that because it's just so effing insane. Like I can't even
I love
comprehend that.
one of my favorite parts of the podcast is when you just decide to filter yourself. There are some times where you'll drop an F-bomb and I'm like, I feel like that was maybe a little uncalled for. Like we didn't need to go that heavy on the F-bomb, and then here you drop the F in. I don't even know. I don't like
It's all
right
about
now,
mood. It's a
dude, it's
feel.
all
It's
about
a
move. But
feel.
if there's any time to drop an F-bomb, I feel like it's right now where we're talking about Jaylen Brown getting $300 million and all these guys getting all
Right
this
fucking
money.
now.
Will, we need I was thinking about this when I was looking at the breakdown of Jaylen Brown's contract, 28-29. Where's Green with Envy going to be?
Ooh, that is a great question. Hopefully, we're somewhere in the Jaylen Brown ecosystem so that we're feeding off that 70 mil. Hopefully, somehow we've attached our wagon to the Jaylen Brown ecosystem and we're hovering somewhere around that piece of the pie. I don't know. That's a great question, but we can only hope to grow the brand. The brand is growing. The brand is strong, but we only can hope to grow it to a level like that one day. One day. But no, shout out to Jaylen Brown. This is long time coming. Glad that we can get rid of the anxiety of it's not official until it's official. It's now official. Celtics offseason basically complete at this point. Maybe a few more vet signings along the way. So we'll keep you posted on that and we will have updates for you. But on the other side of this, we wanted to give y'all a little sneak preview into some new content that we're going to be rolling out on our YouTube page. These are going to be called Green with Envy Quick Hits. We've already got at least one of them up on our YouTube page if you want to go check that out regarding the Austin Rivers potential rumor as one of those vet minimum signings. Coming up here on the other side of this break, it's myself, it's Adam Taylor, and we head to the barbershop to go talk about Paul Pierce versus Dwayne Wade, part 2. It's
Oh,
resurfacing here.
wait, before we kick it to that, can I just like give my thoughts on that real quick?
Yeah. Go ahead. What you got?
I didn't have a chance to get with you guys earlier. So like, and I'm sure you will. I haven't listened to what you guys talked about, so I have no idea. But everybody knows the context of Paul Pierce and Dwayne Wade and that whole discussion right now. I feel like they've kind of gone back and forth at each other over the years.
Well, this is why I
But
said it's part 2 because this started as like an ESPN debate like 5 years ago or 3-4 years ago, whatever it was, and then it got brought back up on the It Is What It Is with Cameron and Mace, which is a fucking hilarious show.
I'm not too familiar with that show. I consume it only on like very quick hits on Twitter and stuff like
Oh,
that.
same, but I think that's the way that show is is best digested.
For sure. But I don't want to talk about Pierce and Wade. What I do want to talk about is I saw somebody tweeted out like in their prime, at their peak, who would you pick? And it was like, I think it was T-Mac, Pierce, Wade,
And
maybe
Mello.
in Mello,
I think I
right?
saw the one. Yeah, I think it actually didn't have Wade and it had Paul George in there.
Okay, Paul George. And if your answer is not T-Mac in that, then I don't know what you're thinking. Tracy McGrady, in my opinion, for at least 1 year, was the best two guard in the NBA, and that was when Kobe Bryant was in the NBA. I think T-Mac really was that great of a player early on in his career. Had some injuries that kind of slowed him down a little bit, but there were a 1 or 2 year period. I don't know exactly, probably like 2001, 2002 ish, where T-Mac was really that dude. So if your answer was not T-Mac there, go back, watch some film. Tracy McGrady was that dude. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. Well, we reference similar. We didn't touch on that exact post that you're talking about that was going around, but do mention T Mac and Melo in the frames of
Mm.
this debate between Paul Pierce and Dwayne Wade. So, with that said, on the other side, Paul Pierce versus Dwayne Wade. Let us know what you think.